Lilu, this is a very serious movie, so get all of your funny business out of the open right now. And go, Lilu. Okay. Buckle up. Let's talk Women Talking. Women Talking is a film that was adapted from a novel and inspired by the horrifying true story in 2011 when 7 ultra-conservative Mennonite Bolivian men were convicted for drugging and raping over 100 women on a regular basis in their community using cow anesthetics. Unbelievable. Obviously, this is not the happiest or most joyful setting for a film this year, but oddly, despite the subject matter, I would say the film overall has a sense of hope and optimism for the future. Sarah Polley not only wrote this adaptation, but also directs this film as well. She starts off the film with the text that the film is "What follows is an act of female imagination." It truly is a film of just women talking about overcoming oppression. There aren't many locations or high-end effects, just wonderful actors carrying the film through performance. This might sound boring, but anyone who has seen films like 12 Angry Men know that when done right, they can be wonderful pieces of cinema. In fact, this film could very well be called 8 Angry Women.
I don't know what we're yelling about!
Polley takes this tragic event and opens it up for a deep discussion of patriarchal rule. The women in this film have to make almost an impossible decision. They have to decide, do they do nothing and endure? Do they stay and fight? Or for all the women in the village to just leave? They start by actually giving each other a voice by voting, something they have never been given. From that vote, the rest of the film is centered on discussing these options. Weighing the pros and cons, these discussions will affect the fate of this community. It seems that many of these conversations often have many similar parallels to, the recent Me Too movement. And, so it's very interesting to see what this dialogue accomplishes and what they think that the future should hold for this community. They are joined by one man, played by Ben Whishaw, who is a college-educated school teacher. Having an educated man take the minutes from their meetings and even ask for input was an interesting choice. I mean, he is a different kind of man, unlike the other men that we actually never see the faces of. The decision not to show the oppressors' faces, it doesn't give them an identity. And I think that is very important to focus more on, the women's story and giving them the power to make the decision of what needs to happen for things to change. We actually do see Ben's character, and that is because he is an ally of these women, and he's hopefully the type of male figure they want to promote in this new society of theirs. Even though this film is a story about violence, Polley is wise to not focus on the violent acts themselves, but instead the emotional aftermath. You see flashes of the trauma, but it isn't overdone. These flashes of violence makes it all the more urgent to address these, this oppressive society. Reinventing their own world isn't an easy discussion, and this truly is a long, long discussion. Polley focuses on making the dialogue the star of this film. So the movie really lacks stylistic cinematography or directorial flashes. Because of this, the movie doesn't feel, very cinematic at times, almost as if it were a staged play. If it isn't a Broadway play already, its simplicity and momentum is derived from the dialogue and the performances, which would make it for an easy adaptation. But going back to the star of the film, which is the dialogue, is a very interesting decision, because by making it the star of the film, the dialogue, she is giving the words and voice back to the women who have been denied one. I did say that the real star of this movie was the dialogue, but you do need great actors to be able to pull off good dialogue, and that is what we have here. It's a very well-rounded cast. All of them are very superb, and I must say though, I was marketed with a lot of Frances McDormand. I came in with, the expectations. Frances was going to be all over the place. And I didn't get very much Frances. And so if you are a big Frances McDormand fan, what they would call those people, like a Francie. Are you a Francie? Are you a Francie fan? I like that. I like Francie fan. I'm a Francie fan. And you just don't get enough Francie. Not enough Frances McDormand. I demand more McDormand in my photo, my video, my things. You will leave wanting more. More! I'll say this movie is a hard sell for general audiences. I mean, you have one location, lots of talking, like this movie review. But this movie review is entertaining. Right, Lilu? We're very entertaining. This, right now, is entertaining. Right, Lilu? Right? But anyway, enough joking around. This is a hard sell. One location, difficult subject matter, mostly dialogue, not much action. With all that said, this movie achieves its message without needing all of that cinematic flair. This movie explores some really interesting themes about morality and independence and faith in the face of violence. Because of these interesting discussions and excellent performances, this movie rolls right past that yellow light, right into green light territory. We got a green light here, Lilu! We got a green light! This isn't a movie that you have to see on the big screen. You could easily wait and watch this at home, and you would probably get the same experience. So you could save some money and wait for streaming. I know one thing I could do. If this movie review needs a little bit more spice, a little bit more action, if you will, Lilu, so just the talking and all that, bland reviewing, maybe we get some high-octane car action. What do you say, Lilu? Yeah! I demand more Frances McDormand. I demand it.